Hey, it's Friday, December 18th. Let's talk PlayStation. Alright, just a couple of interesting news stories I want to talk about with you all this week. I love hearing about stuff like this. So, Senior Technical Project Manager at PlayStation, Tim Lindquist, was talking a little bit about PS2 emulation on PS4, specifically implementing trophies into these PS2 games, and how long that usually takes. So actually deciding a trophy list for a game takes about 1 to 2 weeks, and then actually implementing those trophies takes about a month, and then actually properly QA testing the game to make sure it actually works and all the trophies pop accordingly. That could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months, depending on the length of the game, and when everything's all said and done, it could take anywhere from 1 to 2 months to actually have a game completely ready to go, just in terms of trophy support, just in terms of getting those trophies actually in the game and working, which if you've know anything about trophies or achievements and sort of their place in the development cycle, they're decided like right at the end of a game's development cycle. Basically, they're like one of the last things a developer does when they're making a game, and typically it doesn't take that long to do. And that's the whole reason why Sony had that trophy patent, and it kind of got a little bit complicated in terms of how to make it actually work, because these games are old and they're not made from the ground up on modern hardware, working on modern UI to make the trophy system work properly, and which is why, when it was announced that these PS2 games would add trophies, my initial thought was the trophies probably aren't going to get necessarily too complicated, I guess, which is why a lot of the trophies that we see currently on these games are trophies that are kind of like very easy to, again, what the patent goes into, which is noticing certain triggers, which would then tell the UI and the overall system to say, hey, deliver this trophy to the player. Something as simple as like tracking, like the hidden packages in Grand Theft Auto, or making sure that a specific mission was passed in the game, basically. Simple stuff like that. Because even Tim mentions one of the more difficult trophies they had to program into Dark Cloud, for example, is the one where you have to complete a level without dying. Something like that is a little bit weirder because you're not, the game has to track it in a much different manner, basically. Instead of saying, okay, give this to the player when they complete a level, now it's only give it to the player when they don't die during that level, and that goes into a little bit more of a, you see what I'm saying, right? They can't necessarily track that, and that's something that tons of modern games actually have now with achievements and trophies, as more nuanced accomplishments like that, basically. I know I just spent a long time talking about trophies and people don't really care about it all that much, but I love hearing about behind-the-scenes development stuff, especially with something like this, because you guys know I love my trophies. Our next news story is kind of like one of those teaser news stories where it's not much of any news, really, but it's always nice to hear these things. So over at the Kind of Funny crew, Colin Moriarty was interviewing Sony's Scott Rhode, and Scott Rhode was talking a little bit about Sony's first-party developers and what some of their developers are doing right now, because that's what we're always wondering is where's Sony's first party. They're being trickled out a little slowly, but we still know that Sony has a lot of these developers that have yet to release some games. So we got some more little small tidbits about what's going on. Specifically, Sony Bend. We know Sony Bend, their last game was Uncharted Golden Abyss on PS Vita. That was how many years ago now? So we're wondering where their game is. We know it's a PS4 game. We know it's one of their biggest titles that they've ever made. Probably is easily their biggest game that they ever made at this point. Scott Rhode is saying that their game is playable. It's coming along very nicely, and again, like he said, it's going to be like one of their biggest titles. But why is it taking so long? Scott did touch a little bit on that, and that's that apparently Sony Bend tried a few things. A lot of times as developers, they'll wrap up a project and they start the early conceptualization process, the brainstorming process of what they want to do and what's their next project's going to be. A lot of the times a developer will really start to work at something, even start with some playable polygons and stuff, and really kind of figure something out, and then it just might get to a point where it's really not working out and they'll scrap the whole thing and start over again. This is not foreign to the games industry. This is why some developers take a very long time to release games. Sometimes they'll work on a game and their engine's just not working and completely throw it out, but still work on the same game. This is what we always talk about when it's how many factors go into game development. So many. So hopefully we'll see something from Sony Bend soon. He also touched on Sucker Punch, and that their next game is currently in a playable state. He has played it himself. I imagine Sucker Punch is still a decent amount of time away before they show us their next project. In terms of Infamous, he said that they'll never retire that IP. They'll never retire any IP. And that's kind of true to what Sony always does. They are pretty forward-spoken in that manner about, you know, how we'll always revisit old IPs when we feel the time is right. Never say never. Kind of a safeguarded answer, of course, and Infamous is a big IP for Sony, so I'm sure even if it's not going to be Sucker Punch's next game, even if, you know, Sony wants to hand it off to another developer, I think it's safe to say we haven't seen the last of Infamous just yet. And then lastly, you touched on Sony Santa Monica and their big next project, which we're all assuming is God of War, which we all know there is a God of War being made, but he said basically, yeah, like, he's excited for that too, and like I said, it's just a big tease news story, but boy, we'll take anything we can get, basically. Now, kind of piggybacking off that news story, let's go into another kind of funny interview. So Greg Miller was interviewing Naughty Dog's Neil Druckmann, talking a little bit about Uncharted 4, Naughty Dog, things like that. The one thing that I wanted to take away from this is that during that interview, Neil talked about how, again, they at some point did actually start working on a Jack 4, like the early process, started working on it a little bit, see if they wanted to take that route. And we all know that with that story is that Naughty Dog did start working on Jack 4. They felt it wasn't right. They were doing too many different things. It wasn't the story they wanted to tell. It just didn't work. So that they moved on to The Last of Us. And that's the thing. Well, you've got two different people, basically. You've got Scott Rhode, who works at Sony. You've got Neil Druckmann, who works at Naughty Dog. And there's these two echoing statements, which is that Sony is very open in this mind with developers, or specifically their developers, I guess, is that, you know, they'll let people take their time, basically. And that's what basically Neil's saying, because what Neil was saying is that when they were in that process of working on Naughty Dog, basically they told Sony, hey, we're trying Jack 4, it's not really working, can we do something else? To which Sony said, yes, absolutely, go right ahead. And earlier in the Scott Rhode interview, that was the same thing that he was talking about with, I believe, Sony Bend, or was it Sucker Punch? But basically there was another developer where Scott Rhode was mentioning how, you know, this is how we are with developers. We'll let them work on something, we'll let them figure it out, we'll let them, you know, see if it's right for them, if they're happy with their current project. If they're not feeling it, we're not going to feel it, because ultimately it's not going to be a good product at that point, so just start over again and get it right, because that's what's most important, is actually getting it right. So that's, I guess, that's what I like about Sony. You know, I'm not trying to praise Sony. I mean, the thing about this channel is that a lot of people often see me criticize Sony too much, but this is the one thing I love about Sony is, and again, this is maybe as of recently, because of with PlayStation 4, Sony's been a lot more forward. Earlier in the PlayStation 3 life cycle, this was not Sony's attitude, basically. But as of recent, Sony's been great with developers. I mean, not only do they have great third-party relations, they're treating their first party very, very well, but they also like to fund games that they know is not going to be financially like a gangbuster. Titles like Rain on PSN or initially Little Big Planet, which, you know, on the surface Little Big Planet might not look like a huge success, but they still funded it anyway and they still supported that. They're doing Dreams with Media Molecule now, and that's another game where it's like, who knows if that game will be financially successful, but they're still supporting that. You know, David Cage games that, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just they'll do it. And maybe that's something that speaks more to me than most other people, because again, these games aren't financially successful, and that would tell you that not many people are playing them and not many people are buying them. But I like unique, out there sort of games. I like games that are not necessarily what most people are looking for. I enjoy that stuff, and that's, I guess, what I really enjoy about Sony's business practices. And for our last news story, which I won't talk about too long because it was our Ryan on Gaming topic this past Wednesday, so go see that video for a more in-depth sort of analysis and talk about that news story. But either way, on here I'll tell you, yeah, Hideo Kojima and Sony have officially partnered. Hideo Kojima's contract with Konami is officially up, so Hideo can go do what he wants. And what he's doing is he's forming a new studio, still called Kojima Productions, just a new company logo and things. They're currently hiring right now for a new project that's going to be a console exclusive on PlayStation, which likely means that Sony doesn't own the IP that they're going to be working on. Apparently Sony is publishing the IP, but they're probably not going to own it. The game will likely see a PC release. It will not come to Xbox. Kojima, you know, this is still an independent studio. This is not a first-party studio from Sony. So Kojima is still retaining all the rights and everything, which is great. I'm sure he's very happy about that. But yeah, that's again huge news. Like I just mentioned in the ROG topic, it's big news, and I'm sure Sony's super happy about it. And more importantly, I'm sure Kojima is very happy about it, because the guy's been with Konami for so long, and whatever did happen at Konami has probably put like a very sour taste in his mouth. So I'm just happy that somebody that has, you know, been been working in the games industry this long and is that passionate about games and will continue to work in games for the rest of his life can finally have a little bit more freedom when it comes to actually working in his field. Those are just some of the news stories I want to talk about with you guys this week. So the Jak 2 Let's Play is finally over. Woo, that was fun. Great stuff, right? Now it's time to talk about the next Let's Play. So if you do follow me on Twitter, you'll notice that I actually put up a Twitter poll asking you guys what game you wanted to play. I just kind of polled like the 3 biggest answers I saw from the Jak 2 comments Let's Play. It was between God of War, a Sly Cooper game, or a Resistance 3 co-op Let's Play that I've already filmed with a friend of mine. And it looks like Sly Cooper won. I've put up another poll, basically, asking which Sly Cooper game now, Thievius Raccoonus, Band of Thieves, or Honor Among Thieves. I already did Thieves in Time, for those of you who don't know, it's in the full completed Let's Plays playlist. You can go check that out if you want. But that poll is actually still running, so if you do follow me on Twitter, you can go ahead, or if you don't follow me on Twitter, you can go ahead to my Twitter account and cast your vote for the next Let's Play if you want. It looks like Thievius Raccoonus is winning right now, so that'll probably win because it's got a pretty commanding lead. But hey, all the Sly games are awesome, and I enjoy all of them. Anyway, let's get into something that was very generous from you viewers to you viewers. So basically, Anthony L. Fox at 21Fox83 hit me up on Twitter. And he has a code for Guacamelee Super Turbo Championship Edition that he wanted to give to me, but I asked him and I said, could I give it to you guys? So he said that's totally cool. So we're gonna give away some. Oh my God, PS4 is falling asleep. Wake up. So we're gonna give that away. Which I'm still holding my phone up, by the way, because there's actually more too. Anthony, I didn't even get to tell you that. There's actually more giveaways as well. So Super Guacamelee Super Turbo Edition is up for grabs. And then also, oh shit, wait, they separated the PlayStation app. Hold on. With the PlayStation app, they added a second app for strictly messaging, so now I gotta go to this one. Yeah, we got some more codes. He said he didn't want to get, he said he didn't want any credit. Yeah, I asked him, he said he doesn't want any credit, so, you know, if you still want your credit, let me know, and I'll do it next, or I'll give you a shout out next week. Both these guys went to PSX and they have a bunch of great codes for you. So, he's also got an Alienation theme up for grabs, a Riggs theme, 7 days PlayStation Now trial. I believe you can already get a trial like for free, but I guess this is just an extended trial if you already like used up your trial or something. Nuclear Throne for PS4 and Vita is up for grabs, and the Bit Trip also up for grabs. So all those all those things basically will be given away. And I'll just like randomly pick from like the comments. So basically just comment in this video and I'll announce some winners next week completely at random and message you in your YouTube inbox and just give it to you at that point. Thank you guys so much for actually providing me with those codes, Anthony and Unnamed Awesome Guy. Great stuff. That's very generous of you. I wish I could talk. I don't know. I have a YouTube channel. I just don't know how to properly speak English. I feel like I also have weird pronunciations for that stuff too. Anyway, I think that's about it for everything. So thank you all for watching this week's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation. I'm Rhode, and I can thank you all so much for talking with me, and I'll see you guys next Friday.